Hey, hi, hello, it's Tiani Janae. Welcome to the Archive Alive YouTube channel. For the Record is an oral history interview series aimed to document, honor, and preserve the professional and personal experiences of unsung artists with veteran insight while they're still here and living. Our first guest of the series is Beau the Button Man Mccall. So why don't we start by you just giving an introduction, tell the people who you are and what you represent.
Okay, I'm Beau Mccall. I'm a button artist, strictly buttons. I'm originally from Philadelphia. I grew up in South Philly. I grew up in the projects. Initially, the projects was called Hawthorne, and then Martin Luther King came one summer, and they changed the name to King's Plaza. At the time we were in the projects, it was a great time to be in the projects because it was fresh and new. It was two parents in everybody's household. Everybody knew each other. It was one big family. We had Hawthorne Elementary School was across the street. And then on the opposite corner, it was Bartlett Junior High School. And then up the street was St. Teresa's. And then down the street was St. Peter Claver's. We had a lot of mom and pop stores, the barbershop, the old guys sitting out in front of the barbershop playing checkers. And we had these platforms of grass that was on these platforms. We would play on top of the grass. The guys play football. And then a big thing was we used to play king ball. It was really family oriented. Like my neighbors, it was a time you didn't have to lock your door. We just went in and out of each other's apartment.
Really?
At the time, it was just, yeah. At the time, it was me and my two brothers. This is before my sister came on the scene. And next door, there was three girls. So their younger sister was my age, and she had two older sisters. So it was like a family. We would just go running in and out of each other's apartments. Me and my middle brother, we went to Catholic school for a minute. I was traumatized in Catholic school. I couldn't take the torture. I couldn't take the punishment. And then they were very racist. So it was a lot of pressure as far as me trying to learn and focus on what I was there for. Because I acknowledged the racism at an early age. And some of the things that the nun used to say to us, I used to go home and tell my mother everything she would do and say every day. And a couple times, my mom had some confrontations with her. And I remember the last time, I was fed up. I didn't want to be in anymore. I wasn't happy. And I remember my mother said to her in front of the class, who did she pray to? And that was like, oh my God, like thunder and lightning came down in the classroom. It was like, oh my God, his mother said that to sister and blah, 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 blah. So from that point, I think I was in the fifth or the sixth grade. I went to public school. So I was used to being in the Catholic school setting. So, we sat a certain way, your posture was a certain way. You sat at your desk with your hands folded. You had a shirt and tie on, you had slacks on, you had shoes on. When I got to public school, it was another world. Like I still carried that on, like I was dressing like I was going to church. And, they were very comfortable and relaxed with their sneakers and this, that, and the other. And I really didn't take advantage of the freedom of my visual freedom until I got to junior high school, where I just I let loose. Then as far as my sexuality and coming out, we just did a talk, a panel discussion with AARP, intergenerational relationships, and one of the questions was how did I come out? and I don't think I actually came out because at the time it was a lot of boys in my family, and I didn't get any different treatment from anybody else. I was just one of the boys. But in my soul, I knew that I was different from them. I knew that I was going to have a different type of life. I knew that I was attracted to the boys at an early age. I didn't know why. I just knew that, something was happening inside my head and inside my body. Because I remember in Catholic school, we didn't have gym class. And one year they implemented gym class, right? And I wasn't comfortable taking my clothes off around other people, even around other kids. The only people I really took my clothes off in front of was my dad and my brothers, or, the males in my family. So it was really, really, really uncomfortable. Like, I would have like anxiety attacks, but I never told anyone. Right. I didn't even tell my parents.
Wow.
It just was something just came over me where I just could not be in that setting. So when we would have gym class, I'll be the first one down there to take my clothes off and change into my little outfit. And when they blew the whistle, I'll be the first one back down there to put my clothes back on. It was like a magician. So when I got to public school, that was mandatory that you had a gym class. Like it might have been twice a week, 3 times a week, what have you. And I had to go through it all over again. And it was like, I was not athletically inclined. My brothers, they did all that. I couldn't dribble a basketball. I couldn't throw a football. I couldn't do none of that shit. The only thing I could do was roller skate. You didn't have roller skating in gym. So they used to do this thing where they used to do the layup, where you used to stand in line and throw the ball and get in the basket. But when it was my turn, I might have been there for 10 minutes if the ball got in the basket.
What?
It was like so cruel and so demeaning. I couldn't do it. Wow. And then they did this other thing where they used to line us up on both sides of the gym, and they would call a number out. And if your number was called, you had to go up and throw the ball in the basket. It got to the point where I would ignore my number. I wouldn't even get up.
And what did the teacher say?
Like, okay, there you go. Like, oh, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And it was like they would force me to do it. It was like I was in pain. It was really painful. So when I got to high school, the same situation, but when we used to like run around the gym, they had these little pockets where you could hide it. So when we would run around the gym, I would just hide in one of these pockets. In one of these pockets, and if they called my number, I would be in the pocket like that. So anything athletic was really uncomfortable for me. So now getting back to coming out, I've never had the conversation with my parents. I never had the conversation with my siblings. What my mother stressed is that we were all different and we had to accept our differences. And she made it a point that, I'm the eldest and they had to follow my lead. They had to respect my decision if it came to a time wherein it was something of importance family-wise, and a decision had to be made, and they weren't around, that I had the power to make the decision, and they had to follow my lead or what have you. So, it still goes on right now. So, it was the first time that I really realized that I had some kind of power as a human being, right? And they listened to me, So from there, I got in high school, and I started really, I started going out, I started going to parties, I started going to concerts, I started really living my life, because prior to that, I was a homebody, and I would be in the house, just creating things, just making things, in my solitude. And my mother, she acknowledged all that, every couple of weeks, some weeks I would want to macrame. So she would go out and buy twine. Then other weeks I would want to make crepe paper flowers, and she would go get all the materials. Whatever it is that I said I want to do, she supplied me with the materials, and I did it.
That
So,
is so good, so supportive.
yeah, she realized that I was creative, and she realized that that's where I could excel, right? So when I got in high school, I was in this business class, which I should have stayed in the class, right? But Mr. Howe, he was our teacher, right? And then in this class, they provided you a job for the course, right? So according to whatever your skills was, that's the type of job you got. So me, the creative one, I was a stock boy in this little men's store, right? And at the time, I think I made like $1.35 an hour. And he told the class that we were only worth what we were getting paid. I was really annoyed by that. So the very next day, matter of fact, it might have been the same day, I went down to my counselor and told her, I no longer wanted to be in that class because I valued myself more than $1.35.
Yeah.
So I got in an art class, and Miss Jones was one of those teachers that everybody loved. That even if you didn't have her as a teacher, she was well liked, she was well loved. And I went to her, told her I was creative and this, that, and the other, and I wanted to be in her class. So she said, sure, go downstairs and tell them I'll accept you in the class. And she accepted me in the class. And then she acknowledged the fact that she knew my limitations, right? So I wasn't about a paintbrush. I wasn't about drawing and all that stuff. I was more crafty. So, she sat me down. She said, what is it that you like to do? And what is it that you're comfortable with doing artistically? So, I explained to her that I was a crafty person, that, coming up in the project, we had all kind of day camps. And, I learned how to do most of that stuff in day camp. Tie-dye, whatever they had, I learned in the day camp, and I excelled with all that. So she said, okay, so we went to some kind of surplus warehouse for the school district of Philadelphia, right? And I remember it being this big, huge warehouse, and they had all kind of supplies. They had yarn, they had like military parts, all kind of creative things. That if you were a creative person, that when you went in this space, that your mind would just start thinking of all kind of things that you could do with all these different types of material. So she said, pick out what you want, and then we'll take it back to class, and then you think about what it is that you want to make. So I found this interesting wool yarn. It reminds me of like a sheepdog or something like that. So I got, these big spools of that and all these different yarns. And I got this scrim, and I got the rug hook needle. And I did this rug sculpture for the wall, right? And I graduated that year. This is 1975. And I wasn't eligible. I think the date closed for Gimbel's used to have a citywide art contest for the students, right? So she saved my piece for the next year, and I ended up coming in third place.
Wow.
And that's how much she believed in me.
That's so important. That's so important. And you still remember her after all these years.
Yes. And she, outside of my family, she was the only person that really got my creativity, and she let me just go run with it. So from there, I graduated high school, and then one of my closest buddies in school, we ran around, we did everything, we went everywhere, and I don't know where we were going this particular day. And by this time, I think I might I might have been 20 or 21, and we were still hanging out, and we're still friends today.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in her car, and I said, I have something to tell you. So, I broke down, I'm crying and falling all out, what have you, right? She's like, well, what is it? Just say what it is. What is it? I was like, I'm gay. She was like, is that all? Is that all? Are you finished? Is anything else going there? So I was like, no. She said, oh, well, we're going to so and so and so and so and so. So our relationship never changed. So from there, I was like, I'm going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
My family didn't treat me any differently. And the people that I considered my friends, it wasn't an issue. So
that's good.
And in that respect, I was able to just be the person I am. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't have any difficulties in the process of becoming who I am today. Because it was some roadblocks and some lumps and bumps here and there.
I'm sure.
But for the most part, the gay men that I was around, some of the stories that I heard from them, I didn't experience, and some of that stuff I could understand, but I couldn't relate because I hadn't experienced it, and it was almost like to a certain degree that you were supposed to go this because you're this gay Black man,
right? Part of the experience.
Yes, but it just didn't happen that way. I just feel like I was blessed, and then it was this older gay man that we used to hang around with, and I could not for the life of me understand what he was saying at the time. And out of all of us, all the people that's in my book, he would say to me, "You're blessed, man. You're blessed. You're the blessed one." And I was like, "Why is he singling me out, saying that I'm blessed?" It's like about 10 or 15 of us. What is it about me that he sees in me that he didn't see in the rest of them? So as I got older, I understood what he was saying to me because, my family background, the way I was raised, just some of the things and the way how I wanted to present myself. Because that Catholic school experience, at heart, I'm a very conservative person. Mm-hmm. But then my wild child spirit is that artistic person. So at times it clashes. Right. But when it meets, it created the person that I am today. Which, I think I turned out pretty good because I'm still here surviving and
still striving.
Yes. And I'm able to, articulate the stories that I've experienced in my lifetime. Right. So in that aspect, I am blessed. I acknowledge that on a I'm getting a little emotional because I just felt it. I acknowledge that on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And I acknowledge the fact that we'll get to the book. I'll save all my emotion for the book. Mm-hmm. But I think about what would have been like for all of us to still be together. Mm-hmm. Because that's part of my soul. It's part of my being.
Right. And they were there for like the real formative years.
Yes. Yeah. And we were all going through the same thing at the same time. So that was a real special part of my life that I will never, ever forget. And I will never forget that.
Yeah, like, I just want to say, like, we're not going to go fully into the book yet, but like, flipping through it, like I felt like I was there. Like I could feel the time. I had the soundtrack in my head. I'm like, they probably listening to like Crystal Waters, CeCe Peniston's like 1992. Yeah, and it's just like the outfits, and you guys just look like you had such a good time. Like
we did. We did. I remember coming to New York to visit Renee, who was in the book. And Renee took me to Christopher Street for the first time. And this was at the height of disco. Mm-hmm. The whole entire strip of Christopher Street, every door that the club opened, if the door opened while we were walking by, Donna Summer was blasted. A Different Donna Summer song was blasting out of every club, bar down that strip. I was like, it was fucking amazing to me. Like, oh my God, like really? That she was really the queen of disco. You know, we had a ball because like the early part of the 70s was my high school days. So, you know, I was going to the clubs and stuff with my straight friends. And it was a whole nother different experience when
Philly.
Yeah, when you went to the gay clubs. It was different music. It was a whole different energy. And the music that you heard in gay clubs, you never heard in the straight clubs. It was like all this underground stuff. And then they would play songs for like remixes, be like 10 minutes. You'd be on the floor for like a whole half an hour dancing to one or two songs. You know what I mean?
So
it was amazing.
What are some songs that they will play in the straight clubs, and what are some songs that they will play in the gay clubs? During your high school years.
Okay, in the straight clubs, you would hear a lot of Philly International songs. You would hear you would hear Shaka Khan. You would hear Brick. You would hear Atlantic Star. You would hear LaBelle, Lady Marmalade. Evelyn Champagne King. What's her name? Yellow Encore. Sherilyn.
Oh, that's my song.
Right. Then we go to the gay clubs. You would hear you would hear Diana Ross, but you would hear Diana Ross in the straight club, but you wouldn't hear it the same way you would hear it in a gay club, because they would mix the shit out of it in the gay club. You know what I'm saying? You would hear First Choice. Love Is the Message. They play Love Is the Message so much that I hated that song. But it's the anthem. Like, you can't go anywhere and play club music and not play Love Is the Message. Like, they would play that for like a half an hour. And people would dance for a damn half an hour. You know what I'm saying? I can't think. It was just a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. And like we would go to the garage. This is New York now.
Okay.
The garage, you actually went into a garage, you went up this ramp, you paid your money, and then they had these little stalls for you to change your clothes. So you put your little dancing outfit, you put your little shorts on. Sometimes the girls be dancing in their bra. You might have your underwear on, some little cute little outfit on. You put it in the locker, and you run to the dance floor. They had a stage. They had a snack bar, like a snack bar in a stadium somewhere. They had a movie house in there. They had a rooftop in there. It was amazing. And I always describe, and I'm exaggerating, but the dance floor reminded me like of a football field. Like the dance floor was huge. It might have been 15,000 people on the dance floor.
Wow.
Just like losing their damn mind.
Where was the garage located?
Oh God, it was Varick Street in Houston.
Oh, okay, down there.
And it was actually in a garage, right? And then Larry Levan, oh my God, the best DJ in the damn world. Like, he would mix the hell out of any and everything. They would clap after songs and shit.
Wow.
Like, he was like a DJ guy.
What's his name again?
You know, Larry Levan.
Larry Levan. Okay, I'm gonna remember that.
If you look him up, he's a master at the turntable and a master at remixing and breaking records.
Okay.
In the club scene. And then we would leave the club like at noon. We wouldn't get to the club maybe like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
At noon?
Yes. Oh, we would leave like at noon, right? And then we go to Washington Square Park. We get munchies on the way, and we would sit in the park. And he used to be this old white guy. The all things used to put him in drag. You know, he have his shorts on and a t-shirt, whatever, and the girls get the lipstick out and make his face up and put a wig on him, and he would just carry on. He was like an old man, and would carry on in the park. Mm-hmm. And we just had a good time. We just sat there and chilled, and regrouped and went home and slept all day.
Wow. Y'all were lit. Like before lit was a term.
Yes.
Y'all were lit.
And then the line used to be down the block to get into place.
Oh my God.
It was so much going on outside. Well, just as much outside as was inside. You get any kind of drug you wanted, just come down the strip.
Mm.
It was never drama. Everybody was friendly. People just came to party.
Was Studio 54 open around that time?
Yeah, Studio 54 was open, but it was like 3 different things. It was like Studio 54 was uptown, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in downtown, they had like Danceteria and the Mud Club, which were like underground clubs. Like you would hear like punk rock and all that kind of stuff.
I know Basquiat used to frequent the Mud Club in downtown.
So that was a whole nother scene.
Mm-hmm.
With all the punk acts, the Talking Heads and Blondie and Lou Reed and all them. It was that scene. And then you had the garage, which was the gay scene. So, some people was fortunate enough to make that triangle. And then other people, you just stay where you fit in at.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Did you ever want to go to Studio 54?
Yeah, but by this time, before I moved to New York and, I to read Interview Magazine and listen to all the stories and the paparazzi and, how they were the first people to implement the door policy, mm-hmm. where they pick people and all that kind of stuff. And we could have went together. If they had picked you, then I couldn't get in. Mm-hmm. So are you going to lose the experience and say, oh, well, my friend can't come? Most people just went in and left whoever they was with. So, after I kept reading the politics of what you had to go through to get in.
Yeah.
Then I was like, no, I don't think that's for me. And then they coined the term bridge and tunnel, which meant, people from Jersey. Mm-hmm. So they didn't want them in the club. Mm. And you had to look a certain way, you had to be dressed a certain way. So I think I could have got in, but I would have wanted to be with my friends.
Right. Yeah.
So that was that. So I never tried. And then
I love the loyalty though, because some people would have been like, I just want to see if I get in. And then when they
I would still want to be with my friends.
That's good. I love that. And that's why you're blessed.
I suppose so, right? And then from there, Renee, I talk about Renee in the book.
Yes, I just want to say her style, wow. The first picture I saw, I was like, I'm feeling Grace Jones, like that first image. And then the next one, I was like, this is giving David Bowie meets dance hall queen. And then the next image, she had a yellow wig, all white outfit, I think, and a cow print bag. And I was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So let me give you a backstory on that. Prior to Renee becoming that person, because Renee was not that person in Philly.
Oh, she's from Philly?
Yes.
Okay.
So we were already the Strange Beauties. So Renee told me this out of her own mouth, that we inspired her to do what she was doing. Well, I'm going to say her because Renee was more of an androgynous character, right? And all that stuff that Renee was doing, we was already doing that stuff. The thing about Renee is Renee took it to a whole nother planet. It made it Renee, Renee, but he did acknowledge the fact that me in particular was an influence on him just bursting out into another stratosphere. Now, he was always stylish, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was one of those people, like with the Garage. I seen him entertain solo by his lonesome that 1,500 crowded floor, but he had everybody's attention just dancing and just carrying on.
Wow.
That's how powerful his spirit was. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I've seen it more than one time. And then he was a host at this club called Midtown 43. We'll talk about that when you show the shot.
Mm-hmm.
But he always had this larger than life personality, and he was Jamaican. So
I had a feeling, because I was like, it feels so like West Indian, like
yes,
H. Jones, the dancehall queen. Like, I got that immediately.
And then I remember one time, Grace has this song called My Jamaican Guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere in the song, she does this patois Jamaican little lingo in it, right? And I did not know what she was saying. So he was Jamaican. So I said, well, what is she saying right here? I wanted to slap him in his face. He says, darling, you have to be Jamaican to understand it. So, you know, as time went on, I kind of ciphered it out myself. But he was like, oh, you know, I'm not going to explain it to you.
Right. If you know, type of situation.
Yeah.
I want to move backwards, and I want to, let's get into Strange Beauties, and then we'll hop into your move to Harlem.
Okay.
So, Strange Beauties, describe how you guys even formed.
Okay, Tracy and Antoine, that was my clique. We were Strange Beauties, right? At the time, you know, it was the height of disco. It was the height of Philly International. Like, everybody who was anybody came to Philly to record. And then all the clubs in Philly, and even with the radio, you know, we used to call our music homegrown music because they played, you know, lots and lots of Philly artists. Mm-hmm. So that was embedded in us. We pretty much knew what that was about because we lived and breathed that all day, every day. I used to listen to this radio station called WKTU, which is Drexel College. It was like an underground radio station that only came on, that format only came on Saturdays. And they played all this underground punk music. And, you know, punk was already on the scene, but I hadn't been exposed to it. Mm-hmm. So I started listening to the station, and I started hearing all these different crazy kind of artists, Nina Hagen, the Plasmatics, Talking Heads, the Sex Pistols, Blondie. It was just a whole different array of different types of music that my ear had not experienced. So, you know, I just started tuning in. So I was telling them about it. You know, they wasn't really not interested. So, you know, I continued to listen. So one day Tracy came over my house, and Blondie just happened to be on TV. So I was like, come in the room. I said, you got to see this white girl. She's like crazy. She's doing these goofy dances, and, you know, Heart of Glass was out. And she was singing this Heart of Glass. Mm-hmm. And when we saw her, we fell in love with her. We went out the next day, bought Parallel Lines, which was the album at the time. And then we bought all the three previous albums that they released, and we learned all the songs. And then occasionally, but not as much as I would, they started listening to the radio station. So as we, you know, started getting familiar with different bands and stuff, we started going to this club called the Hot Club, which was a punk club in South Philly. So I was out one day, and I saw this poster before Wendy Williams, the talk show, it was this Wendy O. Williams.
Oh,
she was the lead singer in the Plasmatics. So I said, we should go to the club. So me and Tracy, we put our best punk attire on, and we went to the club. So when you go in the club, it was a little tight club. You know, the floor was clean, but as the night went on, when they would drink, if they had a glass, a drink or a bottle drink, they would just drop it on the floor. So by the time the night was over, you might be dancing in like 2 or 3 inches of glass.
Oh my God.
So Wendy O. Williams, she got on, when she came on stage, she had a mohawk. She had no bra on. She had this tape over her breasts, these tights on. One of the, it might have been the bass player. One of the guitar players had a maid's outfit on. They had a coffin on the stage. Somebody had an axe. They were spitting on people. It was like, oh my God, like really? This is a scene.
Very punk, wow.
Yeah, so, you know, it was the real deal. So we were in awe of that. So, you know, we went a couple more times. And then they had another, this other place called the Elk Center. And they had this big punk party at the Elk Center. And we went in drag. And they did not flinch. There was no backlash, no nothing. It was like, okay, well, you know, they wanted the guys, but they wanted the girls too. And, you know, we would be slam dancing and everything and beating those white boys with our pocketbooks and stuff.
You were slam dancing? Oh,
yes.
I would pay to see that.
We did everything
too.
Yeah, we did everything but dive off the stage. And then all of the clothes we wore, you know, from Will and Salvation Army or whatever. So we used to carry the old-fashioned pocketbooks. We used to call our pocketbooks Cadillacs. So we had a pink Cadillac, and we had this like bright orange Cadillac, and we had a black Cadillac. Everything had to be vintage, like especially for me. I never wore current clothing, nothing contemporary. Everything was old. And then we had any kind of vintage star that was out. We had those dresses. Like we had Elizabeth Taylor dresses. We had Audrey Hepburn dresses. We had Lucille Ball dresses. Just like when we would see the dress and we could associate with an old actress, that's what I went to Lucille Ball tonight or whatever. So we had all that.
You still have any?
I ended up giving all that stuff away.
Oh, that would have been great archive pieces.
Yeah. So we would have like $50 and come out with, like, we had ball gowns, all kind of cocktail dresses, like the real shit. And then sometimes we would argue and fight over who was going to get what and who was going to wear who. Tracy was taller than us. Antoine was the shortest one, but Antoine had really, really broad shoulders. So a lot of stuff top-wise, it didn't work for him. So what he used to do is he used to wear like flared skirts, but he would wear them like tops, like ponchos.
Oh, that's smart.
And then we had this black dress that we called the Blondie Dress, because Debbie, she had one. It was just a plain black dress, just zipped up the back and came like right below the knee. So me and Tracy, we almost fought for that dress. So I was like, if you can't get it on, it's mine. When I wanted to zip the back of it, it wouldn't go up. I said, it's mine. And then, you know, we had all these little blondie buttons that I used to put on the dress. And it was this other little leopard mini dress that I had. And then somebody I recently talked to, I had this little Asian white beaded dress. And I used to take and get pantyhose and cut one leg off of each hose to make mismatched legs, because they didn't have all that stuff back then.
Wow.
And then I would take the remaining leg and make, you know, like arm sleeves or what have you. And then we used to wear these wigs called Andre Douglas, which it was only him and Naomi Sims that had black wigs that actually looks like black people's hair.
Wow. I know Naomi Sims. What's his name again?
Andre Douglas.
Andre Douglas, okay.
Yeah, he had some really, really nice wigs, but we used to like this one called the Fantasy. And the Fantasy was like a rock star wig. It was almost like how your hair is now, but it had a bang. It was like these loose curls. Tracy used to put all this spray and all this kind, and the curls would just be like tight. Look like they was lacquered or something. I just spray it and just shake it out. And that's rock star. I'm like, I'm going, you know. So how we got to Strange Beauties, we started seeing all these different punk groups. And we really thought it was going to be like really a piece of cake, that it was going to be really simple to, you know, do this music. Two of my cousins are musicians. One was a drummer, and one, he played any and everything. And then most of their friends were musicians. And then Tracy's sister's boyfriend, he was a musician. So I got my cousin Greg to play the drums for us. And then Tracy's boyfriend James, he played bass. So we decided we was gonna form our own band, not a group, a band. So, you know, we got them to start off, and then I started writing lyrics. And then we would hear little melodies in our head, and we get the guys to play, and whatever. Play this, play that. Yes. And then, you know, they will play close to whatever it is that we was trying to emulate. They would try to do it. So from there, we met this guy named TJ on the street, this big tall guy, but he looked like a punk rocker. He was really, really tall. He had like a strange beauty, you know, he was attractive, but he had a weird sort of beauty. So he fit right in. And then he really couldn't play his instrument.
What's that?
He played the lead guitar.
Okay.
And my cousin, he's been playing for years, him and his other friend. So they knew he couldn't play. So a lot of times they would get in arguments when we would be in rehearsal. No, like, do it like this and do this and do that. So, you know, we would sit and go through all that. But for the most part, it was just a series of rehearsals that we were trying to craft the songs as best we could. So they would change on a regular. Like, we would have a rehearsal, and if we heard different things to make the songs better, we come back and we change it. We keep tweaking it until we felt like it was right. Then my other cousin, he was upstate. So I called him and told him, you know, what we were doing, and some demos for us, which he ended up doing 4 songs for us. He did 2 on one occasion and then 2 on another occasion. So the first 2 that we did, we sent him the rehearsal tape. The rehearsal tape was really raw, and it was that punk sound that we heard. You know, it wasn't filtered, it wasn't auto-tuned. It was none of the technology and all that stuff, right?
Not mixed and mastered or anything.
No, it was very raw. It was like a garage band, right? So when we sent the tapes up, and, you know, a couple months later, he sent the 2 songs back. We hated it. We hated it because he cleaned everything up. And it was like a pop song. And that's the furthest thing from what we wanted.
Right.
So one of the songs we kept the same. And then the second song, I forget, it was called Sinister. But when we heard how he remixed it, I didn't hear those lyrics to that music. So we go upstate. No. We go upstate, and he introduced us to all his musician buddies and what have you. And, you know, we played the tape, and we're sitting in the living room, and I'm like, I got some new lyrics for this. And I wrote some different lyrics for the track. So we get in the studio and we finished the first song. And then when we came to do the second song, which I did the lead on it, the song is called Fact to Fact. And somewhere in the session, Tracy stepped on Antoine's foot and he stopped singing in the background. Mm-hmm. So you just hear us two. But to me, he was the one that really had the voice. He didn't have this amazing voice, but he had a better voice than the both of us combined. Mm-hmm. Right? And I just felt like we needed that voice. Between the two of the songs, I thought my song was a better song because I wasn't really singing. It was more like a rap type of thing. Okay, so that's pretty much how we became the Strange Beauties. And then the name Strange Beauties, one of our older friends, when he would describe people, if they wasn't classic beauty or traditional type of beauties, he would say, oh, so-and-so had a real strange beauty. And I said to myself, oh, that sounds like a good name for a group. So I was kept it in my head. And then I said, oh, we're going to be the Strange Beauties. And then we became the Strange Beauties.
What was you guys' first performance like?
We only had one performance, right? Tracy's family, they had this big Halloween party. I think it was Halloween.
That would be perfect. The whole alignment. That makes total sense.
So it was like in an old, like an old cabaret hall. So it was this huge stage. We had all the band members. I think we had a four-piece band. We might have did 4 or 5 songs, but by being Tracy's family, they filmed it. But it's really the Tracy show.
Oh wow!
Because they focused on her, because that's the relative, right?
Right.
And we did this song. The song I'm telling you about, Fact to Fact. It's a line in the song that says "calling out your lover's name." So when I was saying "calling out your lover's name," I was pointing to guys in the audience. And, they thought I was talking about them. So you could see them like moving out the way. Like, you're not talking to
me. That is funny.
But it was really good. Mm-hmm. Somebody has the tape somewhere. I still haven't located it. I talked to Tracy's sister a couple months ago, and she said that she was working on trying to find the tape. Because we seen the tape.
Okay. I was gonna ask, like, did you at least get to see it?
Yeah, we saw the tape. Okay. Thinking back on it, I really didn't think it was that great, but to me, if I saw it now, I would probably have a different opinion of it.
Yeah. And like at that time, you're actually like trying to pursue music. So you're way harder, way more critical of yourself. Yeah.
And then, people, when we would go out and hang out in the bar, in the club or whatever, they started, like, here come the Strange Beauties. Here come the Strange Beauties.
So
here
come the Strange Beauties.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and they were like, oh, that's the Strange Beauties. Or I remember we went to one of our friends had a house party, Cleo. Cleo was the hostess with the mostest. Cleo would full face, dressed like a guy, a pair of slacks and a button-down shirt. But Cleo, we would say Cleo had his hosted heels on. He would have these pumps on, and an apron. And he would come in. He was like, "Oh, this is so and so. Introduce yourself, everybody. These are the Strange Beauties. This is so and so. That's Tracy. That's Didi. That's Beau. Introduce yourself. Oh, that's so and so. He's a cook. This one is this. That." He was like the perfect hostess. When we would get home, we would mock everything he did and said. He was a great host, but it was just so funny to see him go through the channel of hosting his parties.
Yeah, like I want to buy an apron now. That have company over, just the full look. Like you're getting the full
Yes.
experience.
Yeah. So, that's how we became the Strange Beauties. And like I bump into people occasionally from that era, and they'll say, "Oh, that's one of the Strange Beauties. Was he one of the Strange Beauties?" Yeah. So
And
yeah.
you wrote too, like you were kind of a key part because.
Well, I always describe myself as the Strange Beauty because they follow my lead. I don't think they would have been interested in pursuing that on their own. Now Tracy wanted to be a singer, not necessarily a punk singer, but Tracy had singing in her blood. She was a good. You're not a Virgo, are you?
No, I'm a Scorpio.
Okay, Virgos to me, they're good mimics. Like they absorb shit very well, and a good Virgo can manipulate it and turn it into something else. Like Michael Jackson was a Virgo.
Oh.
He said that he learned his dancing and all that stuff from Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly and Cab Calloway and all those type of people. But he made it his own. Beyonce is a.
Oh yeah. She comes from the school of performers.
Yeah, very much into entertainment. So Tracy was one of those kind of people, and then she did a lot of drag shows. Like she did a excellent Diana Ross and Billie Holiday, but she was so consumed with those characters, you never got to see what she brought to the table.
Oh, I see.
Because as when we got older, and I would go over and she would sing for me. She said, "What do you think?" I said, I can't find you yet. Ooh. Like, where are you?
That's real though. That's real.
But we were besties. So if anybody could say that, I can say that.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what people need to hear sometimes too. Gotta have somebody in your corner that keeps it real with you.
Yes. She had the it factor, but she didn't know what it was. You know what I mean? Because to me, she had star quality, but she couldn't find it.
Okay. Did she do like any training, like take any?
No, you know what? One time, she and Antoine went. It was an ad in the paper to get vocal lessons. So they went to this guy, and he was probably, the way they described him to me, he was a show tunes type of person.
Oh, okay.
She wasn't interested in that stuff, and she wasn't exposed to that type of stuff. So she used to sing in this falsetto type of voice. And I was like, that's not the voice you should be singing in. You're not singing in the right key. I don't know nothing about music, but I knew that wasn't where she belonged as far as notes was concerned.
A little sharp.
Yeah. So Antoine said, oh, they just took our money.
That's how it used to be too. It was easy.
Yeah, so she never really had any professional training. It was just by ear. She could mimic a lot of stuff, but I never really got a chance to hear what she sounded like. And then within the group, we wrote this song called Fantasy, right? And again, like all the tunes were a work in progress. And the guys came over and they played it on the keyboard. And that was one of the first songs that I actually heard the melody within the music. So I'm listening and I'm like, do you hear it? Can you hear it? It's saying, I am your fantasy, da, 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 whatever. So then she starts singing in her falsetto voice. And then the guys that was the band, they was like, no, let Antoine sing it. So when he sang, he was dead on it.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't like that because she felt like that was her song. That was gonna be her claim to fame. But he sounded better than she did. And my thing within the group, whoever had the most potential on whatever song was given, right? I was fine with just writing the tunes and being in the background. You know, occasionally I want to sing a song.
Right, yeah.
But I didn't want to sing all the songs. I know I wasn't a real singer. And I knew what my strengths were and were not.
Great self-awareness.
Yes. So I was like, okay, well, if he sounds good on all the songs, then let him sing it. And then, you know, she was financing it. So
okay, yeah.
You know, so you know how that
goes.
Like if I'm paying for this session, I want to sing a song.
Right.
And then our friend Charles was actually a singer. And he came to one of our rehearsals, which it possibly could have been a fourth member, but they knew Charles could sing. And at that rehearsal, he was supposed to sing for us, and they didn't want him to sing, so he didn't sing.
Oh.
Because we would have all been relegated to singing, being background singers. Because he was a hell of a singer, like a singer.
He sang.
You know? Yes. So it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Do you have like any memorabilia from those days, like a patch, a T-shirt, a pin?
Well, let me tell you something. I'm a hoarder, right? And you know, when I got with my partner, you know, it's like you got too much stuff. You got to let some of this stuff. And if you hear his version of the story, he'll say, "Oh, I didn't tell you to get rid of it. I didn't tell you to get rid of it." But it was these little berets that we used to wear. They were cotton, and there was a baby blue one. There was a orange one, and there was a lime green one. I had them little things forever, and I think they had they might have had like little scarves to match. And then one year I was donating some stuff, and I finally let them go. But what I do have, I have this sweatshirt that Antoine used to wear that's embellished with all these gold little studs that we used to wear on our clothes. And it was another sweatshirt that I still have, that when Bianca died, I embroidered "We Still Love You, Bianca" on it. I still have that. It's maybe a handful of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you at least have something, because that like definitely is very valuable. Very, very valuable. Not just even monetarily, but just for the sake of memory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then like all the drag stuff I gave away. You know, everything I had to get rid of. I had to get rid of that person.
But you still have your photos.
Oh, well, she only lives in the photos.
At least there's some record and documentation of her, because she was fly.
Oh, well, that's the whole point of, because Antoine used to always say that me and Tracy was picture crazy. And, you know, we would hear older queens, you know, tell us about their story and their legacy. But then nobody had no proof. Nobody had no pictures to say how fabulous she was and how gorgeous she was. So we made it a point to take pictures.
I love that.
You know, because I thought I was because in the beginning I wanted to be girly, right? And then I wasn't getting no attention. So I flipped the script, and I be turned it to something like really exotic. You know, I learned how to do my eyes and all that stuff, whatever. and I just changed the whole game up. They Tracy was our white woman.
In what way?
Well, she was light.
Uh-huh.
So we used to say she was a white woman. And then she used to wear this bright red lipstick. And then she wasn't really into eyeshadows. So she had a classic look that she stuck to it, wherein I kept changing my look. I had all kind of different kind of eyeshadows, and I studied Grace Jones' eyes, I studied Blondie's eyes, I studied Diana Ross's eyes. So my eyes would be dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
And then Antoine, what they really had on me, they had really beautifully shaped lips. Like, I don't have no, compared to them, I have no lips.
Mm-hmm.
So he used to just wear dark lipsticks with the black pencil. Mm-hmm. I'm like, the pencil is not for your lips, the pencil is for your eyes. But it worked for him. Mm-hmm. And then I had designer makeup. Like, Tracy was still wearing makeup from the corner store. I was like, I'm not wearing that. So, I had foundation wise, and I just discovered this. I was watching a YouTube channel on makeup for Black women, right? And it was Fashion Fair, because that's the foundation we would wear, Fashion Fair. And then they had Flory Roberts, right? Mm-hmm. And Flory Roberts, it was the same makeup. It was promoted the same way. It was the same casing, the same coloring and everything, but they had a different color. Fashion Fair was pink. I forget what Flory Roberts, their casing, what color they were. Theirs was just a little oily, but they still had all the various shades of a Black person. Okay. Flory Roberts was a Jewish woman. Oh, wow. And all this time, I thought she was Black. Mm. In the documentary, it said that she was a makeup mogul, but she found the door open that the Blacks weren't being catered to. Mm. So then she started catering to a Black clientele. And she would be right there on the floor, on the makeup floor. It was only Fashion Fair and Flory Roberts. There was no other Black makeup like it is today. And then we used to, oh God, this is before Dark and Lovely. It was this one called Polished Ambers.
Around what year is this? Around what year is this?
This is around 79, 80. Okay. And it's to come in these little jars. Like, the makeup will be like a whipped cream or something.
The makeup?
Yeah, the foundation. And with those, especially with me, if they didn't have the color that I wanted, Clinique used to have bronzer for me, right? And all the counters, they didn't have bronzer. And I used to get a lighter color and mix the bronzer in it and make my own shades. Because in the summertime, I used to make this concoction that I call barbecue brown. So we used to do like a lot of little makeup tricks or what have you. Mm-hmm. But it was, and I still felt like I was expressing myself artistically. Because I, created this character, I created this persona, and I had to sit in front of a mirror for like 2 hours just for my face alone to get into a character.
2 hours. Wow.
Yeah, 2 hours.
Dedication. Yeah. That is dedication.
Tracy and myself, it would be about 2 hours. Antoine, he wasn't about that. He just would arch his little eyebrows. He loved little slit eyebrows. Pat his face with some foundation on, draw the lips and say, "I'm ready." And they would say, "Oh," he always complained about we took too long to get ready to go out. He'd be dressed and smoking his weed and whatever. By the time we got ready.
Were you still in Philly at this point?
Mm-hmm.
When do you get to New York, and do all of the Strange Beauties go to New York?
Okay. Tracy came first.
Okay.
She met a boyfriend, and they were corresponding back and forth, and then she ended up moving to Brooklyn. And in the back of my head, I always wanted to move to New York. I just didn't know how I was gonna get here. And she moved to Brooklyn, and she was staying with this guy. And I came up to visit one weekend, and I said, if I get a job, I'll stay. But I didn't like her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, everybody's part to think your friends are influencing you to do this, that, and the other. But I was nothing like what he thought I was. I was the total opposite, because he thought I was fast. He thought I was running around with a whole bunch of men. That was the furthest thing from my character.
Mm-hmm.
So we just stayed out of each other's way. So Trey came, and then I met somebody who lived in Jersey. And no, actually, Cypher Dean, that's the first person that's in the book. Cypher Dean told us that he went to Paris for the weekend. He was a character.
Only for the weekend?
Yeah, because he did some kind of little scam.
Oh.
So he never told us what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But he said he went to Paris for the weekend. So, of course, we were young and we just believed it. So he said, well, we all should move to San Diego. I had no desire to move to the West Coast, but I was ready. I was ready for a change. I was ready to go. I was ready to start fresh somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, we're going to go on such and such a day. Because it was myself, Tracy, and Cypher. The three of us was going to go. I don't know why Antoine was not going, but he wasn't on the list for that, right? So Tracy was going through her issues with her love affair, and she's all in love, and she wanted to be with her man, whatever. She should have just said, "Oh, I'm staying. I'm not going." Mm-hmm. But she led us to believe that she was going. So we, pack a little duffel bag, and we get ready to go to the airport, and we call Tracy, and she don't answer the phone. I'm like, well, we just leave her. Like, let's go. I'm ready. Mm-hmm. So we get to the airport. I don't know what he was doing. And, we got up to the gate, and we got denied, right? Fine. So we came back, called Trey. Then she finally said she wasn't going. So I said, okay, well, we can still go. I'm ready. So we go back to the airport, and then this time Cypher Dean brings a cat. I'm like, why are you bringing a cat? And we couldn't even make the first round. Like,
oh my God.
Really? So,
like, we already have enough going on.
Yeah. So it didn't happen.
Uh-huh.
So I said to him, take me to 30th Street Station. And I had a friend, this guy that I knew, who lived in Newark. And he said, anytime you're ready, you can come stay with me. So I took him up on his offer. I'm stranded. Is that offer still available? He said, sure, come on. So I went to Newark. And he was an older man. I was not used to dealing with older men on a romantic level, right? So, and then I'm still young. I'm probably around 23, something like that. And I remember exactly what I had on that day. I had this little plaid outfit, this blue plaid outfit. There was plaid pants and a plaid shirt, and I had these loafers, and they were like a sling back. But in the little sling back, the plaid matched my outfit.
Ooh.
And I had one of those little hats with a little propeller on the top, right? So I've never been to Newark, right? So I'm calling him like, I'm lost. I don't know where I'm at. Da, 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 da. So finally, I find this house, right? So he opens the door. He was like, did anybody see you? Like, did anybody see me? Like, what are you talking about? So right then and there, I was like, this is not going to be a good experience because he wants me to be another person.
Mm-hmm.
And the person he wants me to be, I'm not that person, and I'm not going to conform to be that person. Because the first time I went to visit him, my hair was permed and spiked all out. And when I met him, I had a jerry curl.
You had a jerry curl?
So, you know,
you have been through
oh yeah, I had a really nice jerry curl. I had a
wow.
jerry curl. So anyway, I go, he comes to meet me. And the first thing he said, even before he said, hey, how you doing? How's your ride, trip, whatever? What happened to your hair? I'm like, what do you mean what happened to my hair? So, like, what happened to your hair? What happened to the curls? I said, I don't wear my hair like that no more. So this is what we're going to do. Tomorrow morning when you get up, you can go around to the barber shop. They know me around there. I'll call them and, you know, I'll pay for your haircut. I was like, I'm not getting no haircut. Like, this is how I wear my hair. So I'm like, this is not going to work. Because I'm not going to be a little do boy. And then he kept saying, did you call your mother? Does your mother know you're here? Da, 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 da. I'm like, man, I'm grown. My mother know my whereabouts. And it was like, he was trying to treat me like I was this little kid.
Mm-hmm. And you were already grown.
Yes. So he went to work. He was a navigator for Penn Station for the bus lines. Okay. He did the mapping or whatever for them, right? So, you know, when he left in the morning, he said, you know, you have to be real quiet because it was a duplex. His family lived downstairs. So, you know, it was like, I couldn't make no noise in there. Like, no, this is not going to happen.
It's too
and then, you know, he said he was going to, he said he was going to be a job. And then he was a boo cop. He was one of those people who they evicted people from their apartments.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, and being so, project, you know, like, come on.
I got a real slimy tongue, and you know, I was saying all kind of little smart stuff to him.
Yeah.
I just knew it wasn't gonna work. So the next day, I think I was there for the weekend. The next day, he said to me, you know, no, that morning, it was really nice seeing you. So that was my cue. So this was during the time that in the Penn Station, you could leave your bags in the bag check. So all of my real stuff was in Penn Station. I just took a few things to Jersey. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to get back to New York City. I just followed him on the train. We never uttered another word to each other.
Wow.
And then I called Renee. Because Renee was in Harlem. And I was like, listen, I'm stranded, blah, 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 blah. Sure, come on. And that's how I ended up in Harlem. That's how I got to New York.
Wow. I didn't even know all of that backstory. Wow. That's so good that you were able to rely on community when you were stranded, because sometimes, like, when people are stranded and they have nobody to call on, that's how they end up on the streets. And then it's just like you go deeper and deeper down. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Oh, trust me. Before I called him, because that was my last resort, before I called him, I roamed around New York for a day. Mm-hmm. And I spent the night with some man. And then I remember I was at 72nd Street where that Papaya's hot dog place is that's still there.
Wow.
And it's the little park that's still there. And I met some other man there. That he bought me, you know, 2 hot dogs and a drink. That was $1 at the time. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to hook me up with somebody. I was like, I got to make that call right now because I'm not doing none of this shit these people think I'm going to be doing to survive.
Right.
You know, that's not the way I was raised. and I'm not going to flip the script right now, I can always go back home because I have a place to go to. So I call Renee, and that's how, I landed in Harlem. He's like, just sure, come on.
How did your family feel about you moving to New York? Like, did they know that you wanted to move permanently at this time?
Oh, my mom knew. By this time, everybody was teenagers, and they wasn't really focused on me.
Okay.
As long as my mother was comfortable with it and she didn't have a problem with it, as long as I checked in and, to let her know my whereabouts and that I was fine and I was still healthy and still maintaining a proper lifestyle, she was good with it. But it was hell the first couple of years.
The first few years, wow.
Yeah.
Describe it. I'm interested.
Well, I didn't know anyone except for Renee, right? And Renee had been here for a while, for maybe 5-6 years, whatever, right? Enough to be settled and situated. So now I don't know anything about New York transportation. Philly, we got 2 train lines, the Broad Street line and there's an L. That's it. I didn't know New York had all these different train lines.
Yeah, it could be very intimidating.
Yes. So, he told me that he lived on 123rd Street. So I just got on, it was the 1 train, but I was supposed to be on the 2 train, right? And I had been there before. So when I got off at 125th, I didn't recognize anything. So I just, followed the little pattern down the street and I saw this billboard. And that's where I knew where I was at that point, because that was Lenox Avenue. And he lived 2 blocks away, 123rd. So, I ring the bell, I open the door. No, he opens the door. Hey, da, 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 da. We greet each other, what have you. And when he opened the door to what I thought was going to be his apartment, it was this little 2x4 room that you couldn't even fully open the door because the bed, the little single bed was in the way. So in my head, I'm like, oh my God, like, is this as far as you got? Like the type of person he was disappointed. Because, he was the grand diva. So, I wanted to stay. I couldn't bitch. I couldn't holler. I couldn't make any kind of criticism about how he was living because I was going to be sharing that space with him, right?
Right. And that was your last resort too anyway.
Yes. So I had to do what I did, right? So I might have stayed with him for maybe 3 or 4 months. And he was the host at this club called Midtown 43. He said, I can get you a job there. I said, okay. But the job was, I was going to be like the custodian and cleaning bathrooms. So I was like, me thinking I'm hot shit. I'm not cleaning no bathrooms. So when I thought about it, I said, I'm in a whole another city. Nobody knows me. So what difference was it going to make? And I said, okay, I'll do it. So takes me to the club, introduces me to everybody. They tell me what I need to do, how to do, blah, blah, blah. So all this was doing club hours, okay? So the club will be packed. They was in there smoking God knows whatever. I don't know whether they was smoking crack or whatever, but it was this, it smelled like some kind of chemical.
Oh, okay.
That they were putting lacing their weed with, right?
Oh.
And I really never got involved in a drug culture. I just smoked weed. That's it. All the other stuff, I was just too vain to be tampering with my own beauty. Okay.
Right.
So, I would go in there and yeah. And I would say, I'm getting ready to close the bathroom. I'm getting ready to clean the bathroom. They ain't paid no.
They like, and
They ain't paid my ass no mind, right? So I had to think of a strategy to get them out so I could clean the damn bathroom and they can go back to partying. So what I used to do is they had these big jugs of ammonia. And I would just walk in the bathroom. It would be like 10 people, 20 people in the bathroom. They'd be in there getting high, whatever, right? And I would just take and go wall to wall all the way around the bathroom. And they would just, like flies, they would exit the bathroom.
That's effective because ammonia ain't no joke.
Yeah. So that's how my evening went. If I had to, a couple, maybe an hour, half hour, go there and touch it up again, they said, "Oh, here come the bitch with the ammonia," and then they would just leave.
Very effective.
So
they knew what time.
From there, a friend of Renee's came over and he introduced me to temping, which I had no idea what temping was, and he gave me a name to this temp agency. I forget the name of the agency. And I went the next day and they start sending me out on these different assignments. And I said, if I get a permanent job, that I was going to stay. And I got a job. And Renee told me that he saw this other place. He didn't say apartment. And I'm thinking it's assuming that it's an apartment, right? So it's, it's right across the street, it's bigger than this place. We should, get together and get this place, right? And then he had a gig in Boston or somewhere for that weekend. So I said, okay, I'll go over there and check it out. And then, we'll handle the business when you come back. And by this time, I'm working, still working at the club. I'm still temping, so I don't know nobody. So I'm just saving my money, right? I'm saving my money. And I go across the street and it ended up being another room slightly bigger than the room that he had.
Oh my gosh.
So, I took the room because there was some other stuff that was going on that I don't want to throw him out on Front Street that I didn't like. So I had to get away from him, right? So I moved directly across the street. And I don't think I went back over there for like a month. So when I went over there, he thought I went back to Philly. He said, "Oh, what happened? Blah, blah, blah." I saw I moved across the street. I got the place he said we should get.
He thought you said Philly and you were across the street the whole time.
Yeah. So I lived in another room and then I got an apartment. But I wasn't and the book explains some of the choices that I made, because during this time I still never met any gay people that I wanted to consider as friends. Like, it was gobs of people in the club that I could have became friends with. I just never did. I just it could have been trust issues, but I just never bonded with any of these gay folks over here. Now, associates, co-workers, colleagues, yes, but friends, no. None. Until this day, none. Wow. The only people who became my friends is people who I was in relationships with. And since I've been here, I've only been in 3 relationships. The current relationship that I am now and 2 relationships prior. So outside of that, no.
I don't think it's a terrible thing though, because like you might have missed out on some relationships, but there is a lot of negativity that you probably avoided, a lot of situations, compromising situations. And you seem to be a person who's very firm in their beliefs. And I know when people move to New York and they get exposed to the high pace and the crazy nightlife, sometimes that goes out the window and then people's lives completely change. But I love that you stuck to your guns. And I think having the relationship with your mom the way that you did, like that was just always in the back of your mind, like staying true.
Because even like with Renee, I think maybe the first 2, 3, 4 months, it was a party damn near every night of the week.
Mm.
And I would go. I was new to the city, I was new on the scene. I wanted to experience it. But at a certain point, it was like, that's not who I am. I done got the gist of what it is. I had enough. So, I cut it off. And then, I don't want to sound vain, but I always felt in my heart that I was destined for some kind of stardom. And I always tell people, like, that's all, you don't drive? I said, no, because when I was younger, I always thought I was going to be famous. I was going to have a chauffeur. Or, oh, you don't cook? No. I always thought I was famous. I was going to have a cook. You know what I'm saying? So it will be little stuff like that. Or, like if I got depressed or whatever, and I'll be like, oh no, I'm not killing myself because I didn't wear them shoes yet. It'd be silly shit, you know what I'm saying? But it kept me grounded.
Yeah.
Like things that I was not going to do. I was not going to subject myself to a lot of things, and I did not. Now that's not to say that I breezed through everything, because I had some toxic relationships, and as far as platonic, just meeting gay men is not the ticket when it's a whole herd of in the room at the same time, because everybody wants to be the lead singer. Nobody wants to be the background singer. And then you get in a room with a whole bunch of gay men, and it's just all these over the top personalities. Sometimes it's just overbearing. You got to step back, and then you got personalities that they want to challenge each other, and it's back and forth. I always say I seen that movie before. Like, I need to see something fresh and new.
Right.
So I just remove myself from it. And if I wanted, to be a part or participate, I know where it is and I know where it exists. And if I want to be a part of it, I know how to throw myself in it. But at the same time, I know how to remove myself.
I feel that. Definitely. At what point would you say you finally found your groove in New York?
When I came here with the intent to do something creative. Now, what that was going to be, I did not know. I've always considered myself a stylish person. So I knew it was going to lead to somewhere in the fashion area. What part, I just didn't know, right? So, I was doing the button thing before I came here. And somebody introduced me to Harlem Week. And I go to Harlem Week. It was this finale. I don't know where it was, but it was the Uptown Saturday night where they had the big finale fashion show with the Black Fashion Museum, right? So I go and I'm looking at this fashion show and I'm like, oh my God, like this is really amazing. They on this big, huge stage. It's all these Black models, it's all these Black designers, and it's about a couple thousand people out here standing there patiently waiting to see this fashion show, right? So I'm watching and I'm just absorbing and taking all this stuff in, right? And I just looked at my friend. I said, I'm going to be in this next year. And of course, they looked at me and just, oh, sure, you always talk about you going to do something, da 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 da. And it started with a group of my coworkers. We went to see Luther Vandross and Anita Baker at the Garden.
Oh
And I
wow!
was,
What year was this?
this probably was around 88. I looked it up. It's around 88. I know it's still in the 80s.
Yeah, I actually have a Jet magazine issue, and I saw the ad for their tour. I don't remember which year it is, but it's definitely in the 80s. I was like, I didn't even know they went on
Yeah.
together. And then I did further
Yes.
research, and apparently they had like beef or something.
Yeah. Yes. But the show was amazing, right? So, and prior to getting to the show, I was working on this jacket for myself to wear to the show. So I'm embellishing the jacket, button, blah, blah, blah. Finish the jacket. It's not up to my standards. I think I told this before, like a week shy of finishing the jacket, I found the technique that took the jacket to a whole new level. So I took it apart, I did it over again in like a month and a half, because this round I knew exactly what I was doing, and I knew how to execute what I was trying to do with this material. So we go to the Garden, and we making our way around the Garden, and everybody's showing off their fashions and blah 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 blah. And everybody kept saying to me, "Is that a Patrick Kelly jacket you have on?" And I hadn't heard of Patrick Kelly. I hadn't had a clue on who he was. Mm-hmm. I was like, "Nope, it's a Beau Mccall jacket. I did it myself. I was proud. Like, I did it myself.
Right.
It's mine. It's my creation." Yeah, and then all night, "Is that Patrick Kelly jacket? That is really nice." I'm like, no, it's not Patrick Kelly. And then I was curious, like, who is this Patrick Kelly? Maybe a couple months later, I think Time or one of them big magazines did a story on him, and that's how I discovered who he was.
Wow.
Right. Then from there, that next summer, I had bought like a dozen denim jackets, and I started embellishing them with these buttons and creating all these different patterns or whatever. And another one of my Philly buddies called me and said, "Oh, they're doing auditions for that Harlem fashion show." I was like, "Really? Where?" And then, it was right around the corner from where I was at. So I got my little duffel bag, and I put about 6 jackets in there, and I went around the corner, and it was man George Saunders. He said, "What you got? Let me see what you got." Da, da, da. He took the stuff out, he examined it, looked at all of it. "Do you have more?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, you're in the show." And it just started like that. So that's how it took off. Mm-hmm. And then my mom starts sending me buttons, or every time I go home, it would be cans of buttons, jars of buttons that I will bring back. And then I will meet people on the street that gave me buttons, and people would take buttons off of their clothes and give them to me. And this whole button thing just took off. And at that point, it was just clothing. And then I started to do these little chains, right? Mm-hmm. And then this is the point where I started losing my friends.
Around what time is this?
This is like early 90s. Like Antoine, I think he died in the late 80s. He was the first one. Mm. And then after that, it was a little period, a break. And then when it picked back up again, it was just like one after another, one after another, one after another, one after another. I call home and like, "Oh, you remember so-and-so? Oh, they died last week. Remember this person? Remember that person?" But it was people that I knew from afar. And then it started getting closer and closer to my circle. And then it became my circle of friends. They just started dropping off like flies. I think the last show that I did for Harlem Fashion Institute, I think it was 94, somewhere around there, right? Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, I was just going to take a time out. I was going to, maybe a month or two, I was going to just take off, whatever. And I think the last thing I did, I was working on these pillows because my mother asked me to make her a pillow. So I was making these pillows. And, you know, I started corresponding with people and all these people just started dying. And it just seemed like my life just came to a halt. It just like, everything just froze. And people just kept dying and dying and dying. I can remember sitting at my desk at work. I would be out in orbit somewhere. I would be gone. And my supervisor would come and she would be right in front of my face. Are you okay? And I would like snap out of it. Like it was so depressing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna say almost 10 years that I was like in this little twilight. Now I was still creating, but not at the level or at the pace that I had been prior to, right?
Right.
And you know, like getting back to these little toxic relationships. And then the last relationship I had, it was not good. And, you know, I always stress to people that when you have these relationships and the relationship is over, that you should have your love hangover. Mm-hmm. And depending on who you are and what you've been through, it'll determine how long your love hangover is. Mine lasted for 2 years. Like I had to get all that out of my system. It was toxic. I just had to remove myself from all I had been through, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I meet Solio. And I always say to him that I waited half my life for him to show up in my life, right? Because he's the first person that truly got the entire me. Mm-hmm. Creativity, the quirkiness, the flipness, you know, we can be our whole self with each other, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, in the beginning, you know, we was having a conversation, we was going out, and he came over one day. He's like, you know, well, what do you do? So I saw, you know, I do these things with buttons. So I start pulling out my pieces of the buttons. She's like, well, what are you going to do with all this stuff? So I was like, I don't know. It's been in the classes for like almost 10 years. So he's like, you know, I think we can do something. So from there, I went back to my passion, a visual artist. Mm-hmm. And he started producing these art shows, art exhibitions. And I think we might be like 12 years in now.
Wow.
And it just took off. And we we balance each other creatively, because we both know our strengths, we both know our weaknesses. According to him, he has no weaknesses, but it's very positive. We've done lots and lots of things. We're both having like the time of our life.
I can tell too. I can tell.
Creatively,
going out. Oh my gosh! When I saw Solio, that was so camp. I was like, I'm living for this moment. Like, I love to see that, and it's so refreshing because people are so refined now and just like so much more relaxed too. Ever since COVID, like the uniform is sweats basically.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing to see.
Yes. Well, that's fearless fly. You know, when he show up, he's showing out. He's not coming up. You know?
Yeah, I was like, okay, he took it literally showing out.
Out, yes. So you know, we're having an amazing time. Showing out was really good. It just didn't last long enough.
Yeah, I hope there was longer.
Yeah, it covered a lot of ground. I was able to see, you know, early on, like my first family. I call it my first family in New York, and a lot of them came through, and then he was able to meet a lot of them, and I can remember a couple times early on in our relationship, I would see people here and there, and I was like, oh, they could tell you about the Harlem Fashion Institute when I was a part of, when we was all a part of, and they would just give him little pieces of it. But I don't think it really dawned on him until he saw this bag of pictures that I had. He was like, "What is this?" And again, it goes back to pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, this is when I was at the Harlem Fashion Institute, and I started, pulling out the pictures and, who's this? Who's that? And then I started giving him, my backstory and my experience and my affiliation with them. And, he was interested in it, and he was able to turn it into an exhibition.
Um, Now that we're on the topic of Harlem Institute of Fashion, Black Fashion Museum, I want you to describe Lois K. Alexander-Ling, like from your personal experience dealing with her and just being within that realm.
When I first met her, it was like somebody you already knew. She was like a distant relative, a family member. She was very warm. Um, she was very soft spoken. And at the same time, she's very no nonsense. You did not play with her.
Mm.
She was Miss Alexander. She was not Lois to anyone.
Wow.
She was very guarded about her project. It was a lot of young folks that she was giving us our first opportunities of fame, we were famous in the community because they came out for us. They came out in droves to support us, right? She was somebody who was easy to talk to. She was very nurturing, very motherly. Like if you could have seen her anywhere, and she'd hug you and talk to you and have a conversation with you, give you some pointers. And then she had a lot of history that we had no knowledge of. Like I'd had no idea who Ann Lowe was. What's I just read about her, another article about her, the woman who did the Playboy Bunny costume. She told us about her.
It starts with a Z.
Zelda, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
her. And then she had Josephine Baker stories. She had an abundance of knowledge as far as what Black folks was doing in the realm of fashion, right? I don't think that she got the respect that she deserved, because again, it was a lot of things going on. Let me not say a lot of things, but as far as Blackness was concerned, every era has their prime folks fashion is concerned. So right then, coming out of the 70s, as far as Black women and models, it was amazing. That runway was no joke. And by them being Black, you knew everybody's name. And they would tear that runway down. Like the crap that they doing today, they don't have no personality. All these women have personality. When you seen them walk, you knew whose walk it was. You knew whose hip was flying. You knew whose hair was slinging. And you knew everybody's name, right? And then you had Stephen Burrows, you had Willie Smith, you had Scott Barry. Mm-hmm. It was a huge amount of designers and models that filtered that runway, and they gave them white girls hell. Like some of them, they just got lost in the sauce. And then when it started to dwindle down, a lot of designers said that the Black girls are upstaging their clothes. Mm-hmm. And that's when Muccia Prada came in and turned everybody into zombies, where they took the personality away. Because the last of the girls who could walk was the supermodel era. After the supermodel era, everything changed. Everybody turned into robots.
Right. There might be like one or two standouts, but for the most part,
yeah,
it's very bland.
Very, very bland. Because it used to be this. Saint Laurent used to have a shop in Philly in this building called the Borscht Building, and this is when they first started putting fashion videos in the boutiques and the department stores or the standalone boutiques. I went in there one year. I don't know what season it was. I must have just stayed in there all day because Iman, Munya, Pat Cleveland, Billy Blair, they was, oh my God, if you could have seen how they was coming down that runway, wow. It was mesmerizing.
And those are heavy hitters. Those were
yes,
cream of the crop models.
Yes. So, it's not the same anymore. But she, getting back to Miss Alexander, she I think now with this Show and Out show, and Solio is proposing to take it on the road, it will be more interest in her contribution to Black fashion.
Yeah.
Because she set the tone for what's going on now, as far as Harlem Fashion Row, Brooklyn Fashion Week, and all these other little Black entities. I don't think any of them know who she is.
It's such a shame because she really did a lot of the work already that people are trying to do now.
Yes, and then she didn't wait for the handout. She did it herself.
She did.
And that's sort of like what Solio does. Is like when we first got together, somebody gave us an opportunity, right? And from there, he just ran with it. Because he's independent, and he always say that he doesn't have the art history background, but he has a very keen eye for art and how to select art and artists. And he communicates very well. He writes very well, and he falls short of nothing. And I'm not saying this because he's my partner. I've seen him turn a crumb into a mountain, right? And he's very hands-on with everything, every little detail. And that's how she was. She didn't wait for somebody. She did it herself.
Yeah. And I think like that is one of the things that people should really take away from her story. Like, if there's no platform, build it yourself. There's ways. There are many, many ways. And she found them. I remember her getting a grant from like the National Endowment of Arts or something like that. And then from there, and also her professor telling her that Black people didn't make any contributions to fashion is just like, she could have internalized that and been angry, but it was like, okay, I'm gonna show you. And that's exactly what she
did. Yeah. And trust me, if she hadn't passed from Alzheimer's, I think she would still be active. I really do. Because she was feisty. She had a fight in her. She wasn't going to just take it sitting down. And everybody who was a part of that before me and after me, everybody has positive things to say about their experience and her.
Wow.
It was like I said, it was like one big family. No shade, no cattiness. It was none of that. We came to perform, and we came to do what we did and be at our best. Because it was about us being the best that we could be for ourselves and for her and for the community.
And I love the education factor that she really stressed as well. Cause like, yeah, you could show your fashion, but getting to the root and the fundamentals so you fully understand like what it is you are creating and the potential um for what it could be. Like you
Yeah.
can see further than just what's in front of you.
Hmm. Very
Wow.
much so. Because and at the time, I really didn't realize how powerful. Because I told you the story wherein it used to be whispers about Beau just sews buttons. He just sews buttons. Like he's not a real designer. He just sews buttons. I never build myself as a designer. I always say that I'm a creator.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a creative artist. Artist encompasses a lots of things. You can dance and be an artist. You can sing and be an artist. You can snap your fingers and be an artist. Okay, I sew buttons, but I sew buttons in an artistic way. So when I got the spread in Women's Wear Daily, I knew Women's Wear Daily was major, but at the time, I don't think that fully sunk in. And by the time it really hit me, the institute it was over, right? And I kept saying to myself, out of all these talented people, I was the one who got Women's Wear Daily. And then it goes back to you're the blessed one. You're the one that's blessed. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, it was a lot of people that was super talented in that pool that deserve to be there as just as much as I did. Because I'm not going to downplay myself because I feel like I'm the best at what I do. I'm not comparing myself to the next person. Right. And I'm not by no means comparing myself to Patrick Elley. Because there'll only be one Patrick Elley. Like there will only be one Beau Mccall.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I saw that when Michael K. Williams passed, you posted a picture of him wearing one of your creations. I gotta know the backstory behind that. First of all, rest in peace, Michael K. Williams. Like, he's one of those people that he was just always present. So it kind of felt like you knew him in a sense. Like, so when he passed, it was like, damn, you thought he was gonna be here forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really tough just as a community, the Black community, another loss this year of one of our considered greats.
Right.
And what I love most about that picture too is he was so young. And was that during the days when he was dancing and choreographing?
Yeah, I first met him on a video shoot for I can't call the guy's name, but he wrote, Over Like a Fat Rat.
Mm.
It's another club song called Over Like a Fat Rat by Fonda, I think it's Fonda Ray. Okay. He used to sing with this group called Black Ivory. Okay. I can't call his name right now. But anyway, it was for one of his songs, right? And Michael was one of the dancers. And I remember sitting there having a conversation with him, and very gentle, soft-spoken. I don't know what our conversation was about, but this is prior to him having the scar on his face.
I was gonna ask you that too.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So wow.
I think in the conversation, he told me, what had happened. I don't want to repeat it because I don't know whether, you know, everything that lines up with what he said. He can't, defend what I would say, but he was approachable. And when I saw him again, we were doing that award show at Sardi's, and he showed up.
Thank you for watching part 1 of For the Record with Beau Mccall. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Archive Alive, and check out part 2 of this interview. You don't want to miss it.